Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
I was on Twitter and I had followed this model that I think is cute. And he kept posting tweets, I kept seeing tweets of his, and they were really annoying. And I was just like, oh, pretty doesn't always mean good.
Not at all.
Good. Interesting.
Very rarely.
I was like, oh, you're terrible. I didn't unfollow him, though.
Of course not. Still nice to look at.
Well, no, I should unfollow him and then go follow him on Instagram. That's what I should do. Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show. I watched the first few episodes of the new HBO show Euphoria, and I was just kind of like, I need Kristen to watch this too.
I planned on it.
Yeah, but I was like, we're gonna watch all 4 episodes yesterday.
And we did.
Which is a lot. I don't know that I would have wanted to do that myself.
I didn't. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Well, okay.
It's a very intense show.
Yeah, I remember being excited for it for obvious reasons.
Zendaya.
Yeah, but weirdly for me, the thing that got me, well, it was super stylish looking and really colorful looking, but in like a, not macabre, but like dark way.
Mm-hmm.
And the song they were using is this song by a guy named Dan Black called Symphonies. And I loved it in like 2009. Like he had this album and I listened to the whole album. I loved every song on it. And he just never ended up going anywhere, certainly not in a mainstream way, to the point where it was like, and that summer I listened to it nonstop. And then I sort of forgot it existed and didn't listen to it again for 9 full years.
Sure.
And when I heard it on, because I think I was with you, I think we were watching Game of Thrones, and it came on one of the previews, and I did that thing where I halted the room, and I was like, what is this song? And you guys were like, we don't know. Like, you're the one that knows that. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot this song existed, because it's even a remix. It's not like the version from the album.
Oh, okay.
But it is, I loved it, and it is so perfect for this show. And I wish they were using it. The show doesn't have a title sequence, so it's like there's not like a theme.
Right.
So I'm fine using a snippet of this song as the theme, but it does just suit so perfectly the show. If there were a complaint, it would be that the song really isn't all that dark, but I don't know. Anyways, so just as a quick description, if you don't know, IMDb says that Euphoria is a look at life for a group of high school students as they grapple with issues of drugs, sex, and violence. It is created by, written by, directed by, produced by, hair and makeup, coffee, gaffered, I don't know, extra casting by Sam Levinson.
He had literally every credit. It was like there was no other name but Sam Levinson for like 15 seconds of the closing credits.
It was so funny too, because like I was trying to explain this to Rachel, and I was like, it really reminds me of Assassination Nation, which we saw in the fall, and we had a very similar experience where we felt assaulted.
Yep.
And sure enough, I didn't look further into it, but you did when we started watching it. And you were like, oh, he did Assassination Nation. And I was
sure
like, that makes sense. So our main character is Rue, as played by Zendaya, and she is sort of adrift in the world. She has issues, as many people do.
Yeah, I mean, she's an addict who OD'd and went to rehab, but she's not ready to quit yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, because is she OCD or is it just anxiety? She had several disorders beforehand.
Yeah, it was probably mostly just anxiety, but she was counting the, like, squares on the light fixture, too.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think her mother handled it correctly, because she was, like, immediately the most concerned and was like, put her on medication.
Yeah, this show is famous. If it's famous for anything, it's famous for how shocking it is with the subject matter and subject matter involving teens. And before it aired, I remember there were stories running that there was a scene that featured like 32 penises.
Yeah.
And though I don't think 32, we certainly got double digits.
There were a lot. There were a lot of penises.
It was a locker room scene.
I mean, I think they're counting like the blurry ones in the background too.
Yeah. So it's very shocking in that regard. And it is sort of like teens run wild. And there are parents on the show, and frankly, varying degrees of parenting. And so far, I don't think any of the parents are outright bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like Rue's mom, I believe she is trying.
Yeah, she's just not doing it totally right.
Yeah. And we did mention that the show shows us, because the show gives you a lot of information in each hour-long chunk. And because, I guess, of the nature of the subject matter, it feels longer. Like, I feel like I've seen more than 4 hours of this show.
Yeah, it feels like the type of show that, like, shouldn't be an hour long, but it's also not comedic enough, so it's
not light
really,
enough for...
it can't really be 30 minutes.
Because you were like, when you realized, you were like, oh boy, I wish the show wasn't an hour.
Yeah, it's so much. It's so intense. It's so much. That's very, like, it's emotional, but it's also just like a barrage of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much stuff. It makes me exhausted for kids today.
Mm-hmm.
I, like, can't imagine.
I related, not the drugs. I never really got into drugs, especially not in high school, but I related to a lot of it, and I that's one thing that I wonder, like, who is the audience for this show?
Yeah.
Because I can't really imagine, I mean, other than for the, like, titillation, maybe teenagers would be watching it.
It's, like, pretty TVMA, too, though.
Well, because there's even a warning on HBO. There's, like, a mature subject matter warning, and, I mean, they don't shy away. Like,
no, not even a little.
If anything, they lean in, and it doesn't hold your hand. Like, it doesn't instruct you how to feel. It really does throw you into the deep end, and you're kind of on your own. Because I remember after watching the first episode, I felt kind of drained. Like, I was like, oh, man. And I think I've built up a slight skin for it now. But no, I mean, the fourth episode, really, I was trying to ease into it. I didn't want to go right there because I feel like we're going to have the most to say about where all the characters are by the fourth episode. But it's very complex, and I'm going to repeat myself, that it, like, really doesn't instruct you how to feel. Because the characters are very, like, that's one of the things that struck me the most watching it a first time, is I was like, Rue is obviously our main character and ergo our hero. And, you know, she's outright unlikable sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I like about this show is that it is very realistic. Like, they feel like realized characters. They feel like full people. Yeah,
I read somewhere, I have not done any research, and I tend to like to before I talk about these things, but I got it in my head somewhere that the actors were very involved in the development of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is apparent. It's sort of not unlike coming into a show like 2 seasons in, where a lot of the groundwork has already been done.
Yeah, but it's like but I don't miss the groundwork.
No.
Like, it okay, I see what you mean. So it feels like the first episode of season 3 of a show without having to have watched the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, like, I'm not missing out on stuff, but it feels lived in. Like, it feels like we're skipping the awkward, you know, exposition of, like, establishing, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think part of it helps because we do have a narrator. Zendaya does, for the most part, narrate it. and it breaks the fourth wall frequently. Because you remember before I was like telling you to watch it, I was like, I don't know how to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't really know. And you, after we watched it, you were like, it does sort of defy genre.
It does, because it's like, it's a teen thing, but it's also like a gritty drug drama, and there's also like a lot of like socio-sexual politics, and
it's like funny. But
it's a little funny, but it's also really like gut-wrenching, like, but not sad. It's more like gut-wrenchingly horrible, but so good.
It's an interesting balance of characters. So far, there is no like a cliche, but they are tried and true tropes at play.
Yeah.
But it's like there's not the girl who's like the preppy, and then the jock, and then the cheerleader, and then the goth kid. It's not like, but those elements are represented, within our people. And that was one of the things that I was actually finding the most unique, is because with a lot of teen, like entertainment involving teens and marketed to teens, things are really cliquey. And teens themselves are really cliquey, but also it's like, I had very organic friend dynamics when I was in high school in a way that this show is kind of portraying.
Yeah.
Because there's like the three girls, it's like Maddie and Cassie and Kat and that other one who hasn't had really any material yet.
She's the worst one.
She is. I want to be like, those are our cool girls, and to an extent they are.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's
they're like on the dance team or whatever.
The two of them are, but it's like Kat is with them all the time, and yet Kat also has her own completely private life.
Right.
And also, like, Kat was at the fair with Jules, and it's like, you would never see Jules with those girls, but you'd see her with Kat.
Because Kat and Jules were, like, summer school friends.
Yeah, and I just remember that being really authentic when I was in high school. It's like, I had friends that were really cool and popular, and then I had friends that were not, and it's like the way we overlapped and stuff, depending on where you were, it's really interesting, I think. And this does a little bit remind me of The Society that we just watched on Netflix.
Yeah, I see it.
Certainly in like a gritty storytelling about teenagers and social dynamics.
I do think the majority of the kids on The Society are better people. There's like way more terrible people in Euphoria.
There's also life and death stakes on Society that we have yet to
I mean, Rue almost died.
Yeah, but it's like there's still a community around.
Okay, yeah.
Like she's still in a world. And I actually did say, or want to say, that I read, or maybe it was one of those inside the episode things, but the way that they shoot the teenagers, especially like when they're outside at night, is a very specific way, because it wanted to invoke that feeling you got when you were like out, when you were young and out in the world by yourself.
Okay.
Where it felt so big.
Sure.
And like the scene of Rue and her sister walking home after the carnival.
Yeah.
And they're just walking down the middle of the street and it's like deserted. It like really, I was like, I remember.
And there's a lot of fog too. So it makes it makes it feel big, but also like you're like in a very small space at the same time. And
mysterious, like almost kind of ominous. And I'm kind of surprised that we made it this far without mentioning Jules.
Well, I just assumed we'd get there.
Yeah, we're getting to her there. But after I watched the first episode, I was like, I'm obsessed with this show. I was like, Zendaya is amazing. I was like, and Jules is probably one of the most fascinating characters I've ever seen. She is transgender, the actress and the character. And it's a really interesting and refreshing step where it's like she's already out and well into her transition, and her home life is stable and her family is supportive and stuff.
It does feel like the next evolution of the trans character. Yeah.
So we're not dealing with the initial transition. We're dealing with, you know, how it feels very real, and to the point where the kids at school just know. Correct?
Do they all?
Maybe only some of them do. She said something. She's really only mentioned it once or twice, but
I feel like, I mean, Rue definitely knows, and I feel like Kat knows. I'm not sure everybody knows.
Okay, so maybe they don't.
Well, and I guess Nate knows now.
I'm not ready. I'm not
ready to talk about Nate either. I want to punch him in his nutsack.
Hey, not fuck. That's my new go-to. But she's so beautiful, and she's so innocent, like so pure and innocent. And mind you, she's not a virgin. You know what I mean?
No,
it's like
not.
by like a lot. Like I know virginity.
Like a lot.
I know virginity is a social construct, and also that there's not a scale. But if there was, it's like she's many points away from virgin.
She has a lot of sex,
but yet that's not like she doesn't read like worldly the way that characters typically do when they are that experienced, I'll go with.
Yeah.
And she's very naive. She's very optimistic. And I mean, to say again, beautiful. Like, and Rue can't help but fall immediately in love with her and place her at the center of her universe.
Like, that is true.
That is a Showgirls reference for those who don't know. And this is also how to do that correctly.
How to do Showgirls correctly?
Yeah.
I'm erect. Why aren't you erect?
We reached a point probably like 3 episodes in where Jules was having Rue take the pictures of her, like boudoir pictures. And you just kind of looked at me and you were like, is Jules not aware of what she is doing?
Yeah, I was like, does she not know what she's doing to Rue right now?
And I was like, nope.
Yeah. Because it's so obvious to me that Rue's in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it's just that she doesn't know what it is supposed to look like.
Yeah, she has a very specific dream in mind. And in that regard, I really relate to Jules. I have a very similar thing. And she's like trying to find this Prince Charming. And let's just say she's willing to kiss all the frogs that she needs to along the way.
Yeah.
And she had an incident, a very uncomfortable incident, with a much older married man played by Eric Dane. Shockingly so.
Yeah, it was weird.
I wish I hadn't ruined it for you because it's like a reveal.
I mean, it was fine.
Yeah. And it was an uncomfortable scene.
Yeah, it's not great.
This is definitely a show that asks more questions than it answers. Because Jules just, I mean, I feel weird saying that he assaulted her, but I mean, he kind of does.
Well, I mean, she's there with all intent to go through with it and hook up with him, but he
has his way with her, and she just goes along with it and completely disassociates.
Yeah.
And then when it's over, she puts her clothes on and goes to a party. And it's just like, oh, man.
We've got a lot to unpack.
And then she has probably one of the best introductions I've ever seen for a character where...
Yeah, it was amazing.
Asshat, nutfuck, Nate decides to like testosterone all over everyone.
Yeah,
and
because his girlfriend is banging somebody in the pool.
Slutty girlfriend. I know, I'm slut shaming, but I don't like her. Which is almost a guarantee that she's going to be my favorite character by like episode 8.
I don't know. We're already halfway through and you still don't like her, so I doubt it.
So his masculinity was questioned, so he had to take it out on weaker people in the kitchen of his party.
It's not even his party. It's
his
McKay's
friends.
party.
And so he zeroes in on Jules and is just flexing on her, we'll say.
Yeah.
And she fucking 2009 Britney Spears. You say I'm crazy, I'll show you crazy. Like,
right, she grabs a knife off the countertop, starts waving it at him, and then she slices her own self.
Yeah,
on the arm, just to prove how tough she is.
It was amazing, and because it then just cuts to Zendaya, who's just sort of like a bystander.
She's like, "Yeah, all right."
that's exactly without words.
Like her exact face.
And from that moment on, she is like Twitter pated.
Yeah,
and so they just become best friends, and all the while, Rue is still dealing with her substance abuse, and she is pretending to be clean, but she's borrowing her childhood best friend's urine. I'm waiting for more there. It's Maud Apatow as Lexi. We haven't gotten a lot from her.
Yeah, not too much.
But I think we will, and especially that they've established that dynamic that her and Rue used to be very close and now are not. Rue has a very scary situation where she overdoses because she wouldn't listen to Fez, the only decent human. Do you have anything you want to say about Fez?
He is the only decent human man on this show. The rest of them are 100% trash. I guess except for Jules' dad, but we haven't really gotten a lot from him.
Mm-hmm.
Every other male character on this show is the worst, TM, and Fez is amazing. I love him. It is Rio on Good Girls all over again.
I think that's true. Certainly, absolutely about Fez, but about all the men being the worst. I think that is true. I'm not hashtagging not all men here. But I do think it's interesting how they do attempt to show what is happening, because it's like I have a great deal of sympathy for young men, and especially, quite frankly, even, the plight of the straight white man in this day and age, because what are they supposed to do? It's like things are changing so radically, and they're certainly not getting the leadership where they need it. And
well, sure, I definitely agree with that. And I will say that I think it's interesting how all the men are bad in different ways.
Well,
but like even McKay, who we get introduced to as like kind of a nice guy, standing up for Cassie and everything, is like immediately slut-shaming and gaslighting her at like every turn.
Oh, completely. Absolutely. And that's
it's like, you were supposed to be the good one.
But that's what I'm trying to get at, is that like we talk a lot on the show about toxic masculinity, and I've never quite seen it portrayed so artfully and deeply.
And with so much different nuance, because it's like Nate is toxic masculinity in a different way than McKay is, and in a different way than Eric Dane is. So it's like they all are, but it's like they're showing all facets of it.
Yeah, and like society, I mean, it is ingrained into society. It's not as simple as just like, an attitude problem. It's like the way our society works.
Right.
It rewards this kind of behavior and punishes, the other. And so like that scene with McKay and Cassie when they first start to have sex, and out of nowhere he's just choking her.
Yeah.
And Rue was like, don't worry, this isn't a rape, blah, blah, blah. But it like comes from the fact, and the show just flat out acknowledges that young boys learn sex from porn in this day and age. That is just a fact.
And internet porn, too. Not even, like, quaint VHS porn.
Yeah, no. Like, I still have my Abercrombie & Fitch catalog from, like, 2003.
Yeah.
And I just found it, and I was, like, going through it, and I told my mom, I was like, you know what this is, right? And she remembered it. And I was like, you should be so lucky.
Yeah, right.
It's like, this is what your teenagers are getting into.
If they're getting into, like, a magazine with naked ladies... with like
boobs and butts and homoerotic, like,
yeah,
you should be so lucky. After Jules, Cassie is the character I could write the most about.
Yeah, probably.
I am fascinated by Cassie. I knew several Cassies in high school.
Yep. Yeah, we both did.
Because she literally is like, what the fuck are you doing? And he was like, I thought you would like it. And she's like, you have to ask me first. So she flat out implies that, sure, but you gotta warn me.
Yeah. Well, she's like, you have to ask me first or we need to talk about it. She's like, why the fuck would you just assume I like that? Like, it's an assumption that is based on pornography. Where, like, I never had a man just try to choke me while we were having sex. Like, I don't know what I would have done.
It's apparently an epidemic right
It's unbelievable.
now.
So let's just, like, look, if you're planning to cut off the airway to the woman or man that you're with, you should definitely ask first. There's, like, proper ways to hold people's necks so that the pressure's there and you're not actually asphyxiating them. You should learn what you're doing before you just do it.
Because I told you Whitney Cummings has that bit where she's like, the money's in the nightstand. Like,
yeah, I just, like, it's ridiculous.
Because I think that I actually really like Whitney Cummings' stand-up, even though the show is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, ladies, she was like, if you ever want to find out where all the men are getting those stupid ass ideas, she was like, watch some porn movies.
Here's my thing. I am not trying to kink shame anybody. Everybody's got their thing that's weird, that's a little bit off the beaten path, that's a little bit different, whatever. But please, don't take porn as instruction. Learn about the kink that you're into and how to do it safely with your partner. And for the love of Christ, please ask them first. It's not cool to just spring your kink on someone.
Yes. So, yeah, I on the Cassie note, it just like, because she's younger, is she not?
I think they're all juniors.
Oh, okay. I thought she was maybe like a year younger, but
She's younger than McKay because he is the oldest one because he's away at college.
okay. She just like, by all accounts, she's actually rather sweet.
Yeah. Well, she's like nice and she seems relatively smart, and it is not her fault her boobs are that big in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like she's definitely one of those girls that like is trying the best that she can, but she's also got that mom, and you know.
Well, and she also herself is a sexual being.
Sure.
And again, like I said, I knew several Cassies. It's like girls find out pretty hard that that is a red letter. You know what I mean? And so it's like she really sort of gets, I think, put into this category of like skank, you know? I'm trying to choose my words very specifically, so I'm kind of like...
There's nothing skanky about liking to have sex.
No, I know, but societally there is. It's like, so she's
there is, but again, it's only the dudes that are making a big deal about it, because all the other girls, which can lead into a discussion about Kat, all the other girls are encouraging each other to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, have as much sex as you want. The Jules was like... to Kat was like, it's not the 80s, go catch a dick. Like immediately, like go do it right now if you need to. And so it's like the girls are all being really supportive with each other, which was not the case when we were in high school, because I know I called girls skanks a lot. And it like is one of the things that I feel bad about from high school, is that I was mean to other girls. But I think it's important that it's only the dudes who seem to care whether or not Cassie was the one in that video. And, you know, for another thing, don't fucking take videos of girls having sex if they don't know it. It's unbelievable. I'm talking like this show's a documentary.
I mean, it is.
All this stuff was like making me so, it's like cringy, and it's making me mad, and it's making me sad, and it just like, I cannot imagine, you know, sometimes I'm like, it would be cool if I was like 19 again. And then sometimes I'm like, I would rather die than be 19 again right now. That sounds like a nightmare. I cannot even imagine.
Well, was there anything else you wanted to say about Kat? Because you were really taking to her.
I think outside of Rue and Jules, she's definitely my favorite. I just kind of like her whole vibe. First of all, she reminds me of Heather Chandler from the Heather's TV show with her like attitude and I mean her haircut a little bit and stuff. I also just love that she doesn't really care she deeply cares what everybody thinks, but she doesn't let it actually affect her. And so when she does go catch a dick, she's like super psyched about it. And then there's a video where you can't tell it's her because it's from behind, which third of all, in the like teenage sex stuff, stop taking women's virginity by taking her from behind. What the shit? I can be cool the first time and then do whatever you want. Like, ridiculous. It just reminds me of Lady Bird when she's like, no one's on top their first time. It's like, wow, be cool for like a minute.
McKay's too busy flexing, like.
Unbelievable. So then I really liked the.
Or it wasn't McKay, it was his brother.
No, it was the Catholic school guy.
Oh, right.
I don't even remember his name. He hasn't been in another episode. But the twins, the McKay's brothers, the twins, they were like in the room when it started, but I don't think they stayed the whole time. Regardless, I then fell completely in love with her during her, like the episode where the intro was like about her and the Tumblr and the smutty fanfic that was about like Harry Styles and Larry Tomlinson.
Yeah.
I lost my damn mind. And it's like hilarious. She's got like 53,000 followers on Tumblr, and then she was really upset about the sex tape at first, and then it turned out people were really into it, and now she's like becoming a Pornhub dominatrix cam girl kind of thing. I'm just like so into her arc, and she's like really owning all her shit. Like she just up and had sex with that guy under the bleachers and then walked away smirking because she told him she didn't come.
I mean, I would have done that.
I know, it's hilarious. I love it. I don't know. I'm very taken by her, and I think what is her name? Barbie Ferreira or something like that? Yeah, I'm very taken with her as an actress. She's got that thing that makes you want to watch her.
I don't really have anything to say about Maddie. I don't really have a reason for not liking her. I just sort of, maybe it's rooted in misogyny or something. I mean, I don't think of myself as having that issue, but I guess everybody can kind of have ugly things. But why don't I like Maddie?
I don't know why you don't like Maddie.
I just think she's awful.
She's pretty awful. I don't like her, but I kind of understand because she doesn't seem to have like a very present home life either. And then her boyfriend is Nate, who is the most trash. And he's like gaslighting her and telling her all kinds of shit. And then like when he was like, when she was wearing that horrible purple thing to the carnival, which is It's too revealing in the first place. It's definitely too revealing for a carnival. And then, but she was like meant to go be like hanging out with him and his family. And he was like, my parents already don't like you. And I was like, why would you say that? Like, that's such a bad thing to say. And so I understand where she's coming from because she feels kind of like a victim of the whole circumstance too, with him and presumably her family and society today and blah, 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 whatever. I don't know. I don't like her, but I can understand.
And this is why I went ahead and threw down the word misogyny, is I don't know how to explain my issues with her without using awful language. But it's like, I don't like her because I think she's I think she's a stupid slut. Like, I think she's a dumb tramp. And it's like, I can hear that coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, oh, don't say that.
No, I totally get it. Like, and again, so we've only watched the first 4, and it looks like the next episode is going to open with info about her that might make her a little more sympathetic. So
yes, because
we will see going forward.
She's yet to be really a good person. Because it's like, I mean, I just waxed poetic about how much I loved Cassie, you know, because of and in spite of her sexual nature. But it's like, there's a sensitivity to Cassie that we have not gotten from Maddie. So maybe that's it. Like, maybe if, you know, I'll be singing a different tune the next time we talk about it. But
well, I will also say Maddie did also sort of imply that she was raped because she claimed she blacked out, which is a dirty thing to do.
Yeah, I forgot about that. She's awful. No, she's a bad person.
And so then Nate went and beat up the guy who she had consensual, willing sex with.
Yeah, she's awful.
It's like, she's not great. I understand facets of it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she doesn't want to be with Nate. He doesn't treat her well. He, again, is only having sex with her from behind. And I feel like he doesn't treat her well. He's not nice to her. And so she doesn't feel secure in this relationship, and yet the relationship is like all she has going for her socially.
Yeah, that is interesting, because when he got her that stupid, like, Austin Powers nightie, like, fembot nightie, and that was the most I ever liked her, is she opened it and she literally went, ew.
Yeah.
But then she put it on anyways.
Yeah.
And, like, that says more about Nate than anything ever could.
Well, yeah. I mean, do we want to talk about Nate?
I guess. I was going to end with him, but yeah, we're here.
He is, ugh.
Okay, so we have seen up to episode 4. So you have seen episode 4 and the end of episode 4.
Yeah.
What was we're obviously introduced to him as terrible.
Yeah.
Several ways over. What was your thought process through the shy guy, 18, blah, blah, blah? Did you actually fall for it? Think that he was maybe going to come around? I did.
I did, because I didn't think he knew who she was at first.
Mm-hmm.
I thought because of the fact that he, at 11 years old, watched his dad's gay porn that his dad was in, I assumed that he was dealing with some latent homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought he was pursuing people on Grindr. And a trans woman is like maybe more of a comfortable jumping off point.
An intermediate step, yeah.
Yeah, for a guy like Nate.
Mm-hmm.
So I believed it for a little while, but I felt really uncomfortable almost the whole episode, because I was like, they're gonna meet in the park, because I had seen the preview, and I was like, I don't feel good about this. I feel like something's gonna happen.
The first thing you said to me when I was like, we have to watch Euphoria, you were like, is the trans girl okay?
Yeah, I don't want to watch it if they're gonna like if she's getting murdered in the park at night. You know
and
what I mean?
was like, she is physically safe. Yes.
Okay.
And you were like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So when he gets there, he was being weird, but she was also anti because she realized it was him. She was like, I can't with you. I don't trust you. And then they kissed anyway. And I was like, is he maybe just wanting to like pursue this? I'm like is he talking the truth? I don't know. And then he fucking went like cold as a snake. And it's like some of the most uncomfortable moments I've had watching a movie. Like the last time I was this uncomfortable watching a movie was on the beach scene of Moonlight because I thought for sure Kevin was going to stab him. Mm-hmm. You remember when we were watching that?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Assassination Nation, but
no, because that was all a little more heightened. It was not as realistic. Mm-hmm. But I was so uncomfortable, and he just like went off and was like, here's the thing is he's got too many like conspiracy plans afoot where like he's blackmailing like 3 different people at this point to like keep their mouth shut about stuff where like Jules and Eric Dane already made their peace where she was like, I'm sorry, that was dumb of me to come up to you. I definitely won't do anything. That scene was
so strangely sweet.
So good.
And like, it just, I don't know. It was so weird.
It made me a little bit sympathetic for Eric Dane, even though he's been plowing gay dudes and trans ladies for who knows how long behind his wife's back. And how does he not know his son watched it? You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. It was really a lot. And he basically threatened to like ruin her life and get her on the sex offender registry because she took naked pictures of herself and sent them to him.
Which, while I know that is a possibility, like that could happen, I don't think it would happen exactly the way he threatened her it would.
No, also because I don't think she's like nude in any of them, is she?
Oh, she had her top off.
She did have her top off?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think his scenario was exactly it. And I'm with you, and I watched it twice, and I feel like I'm getting further away from it, like because I mean the kiss was real.
It seemed that way.
I think, like, because if it wasn't, then I don't know the level of psychopathy we're dealing with.
Exactly.
Like, it seemed to me, after having watched it twice, was that he actually was on some level pursuing this. Mm-hmm. And when she freaked out, he went into defensive mode. Mm. And like he had planned ahead for that. Like
interesting.
If she doesn't go with it, then I need to be able to protect myself, so I'll threaten her.
Interesting.
That's the best I can sort of get from it, because I have a very hard time just saying that he is just full-blown 100% trash. There's no salvation. Like, there's no hope. Because I'm sort of like, what do you do with a character like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. As it stands, I don't see how he comes back from any of this.
Yeah. No, I'm there with you. So that's why I'm like, I don't know how you handle a character like this. Like, what do you do? Because you also brought up him beating up Tyler. It's like, that was so egregiously... Well, no, it wasn't egregious, though. Like the opposite. Like, it was filmed in such a way that we don't actually really see what he did to Tyler.
Well, I mean, the beating itself is egregious. You know what that reminded me of? Is when Sam Rockwell beats Caleb Landry Jones in 3 Billboards, where I just was like, this isn't about him or anything. Like, like you don't know what you're doing. I don't know. It just is really, it's just really like, sick.
The way he terrorized that guy. Like, I mean, it was, I mean, to throw this word down again, I've used it a couple times recently, but it was like snuffy. Like, it was like, what movie are we watching? And I think that ties back around to what we mentioned earlier about how the show defies genre, because there's moments where I'm like, when did this turn into like Hostel? And then there's like another moment where I'm like, is this a fantasy? Like, are they gonna like take flight? You know what I mean? Like, and I guess like you could say that that's the masterpiece in it, is that especially when you're a teenager, you can feel both of those ways.
Sure.
Where I mean, there were times in my, life where I feel like we could have just broken out into song. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with a character like Nate, because I was prepared up until the midway point of their meeting. I was prepared for a redemption arc.
Me too. I was prepared for him to be like, I want to make a go of it. And her to be like still wary, but like go for it. And the fact that, and honestly, the like shot I can't get out of my mind is the shot of her feet, because they're on the edge of this pond. And he like takes one step towards her and she takes one step back, and you think it's going to keep going and she's going to fall into the pond, and then it just stops. And that shot was wonderful. I don't know. It's a very intense show. It's a lot. I'm glad I'm caught up so I can watch it one at a time now.
I was going to say that. I was going to be needed in the chunks. Like,
yeah, you should definitely watch like 2 at a time max. It was a long night last night.
And you were in bed by like 10.
I was, yeah.
But no, it is trying.
Yes.
I don't know what we're doing with Eric Dane with Cal, because he's on the show.
Yeah,
according to the credits,
on the show.
Yeah, because that's the only thing that I wondered, if Jules could maybe go over Nate's head.
Oh, maybe,
and deal with his dad.
Well, it seems like Eric Dane at least knows the score and is like, you could ruin me just as easy as I could ruin you. And I don't think Jules could ruin Nate as much as he could ruin her, even though I agree with you. I think the sex offender thing wouldn't work out how he thinks it would.
It could, though, especially being a trans girl. Like, it could.
Oh, 100%. But what I think is it could work out if she went to Eric Dane and was like, please make your son leave me alone. Like, I am afraid. I wasn't afraid of you. I'm afraid of him. Can you help me somehow? But again, who knows if that would work or not.
Yeah. We do have Storm Reed. She is Gia Rue's younger sister.
She hasn't had a lot to do yet, but
no,
she's just so cute.
She did have a really good scene with Rue in episode 4 where she was trying her own hand at the rebellious teen.
She got stoned with McKay's twin brothers, Troy and Roy.
Sure.
Those are their names.
That's mostly it. I mean, we have Alana Ubach hanging out as
Cassie's mom.
Yeah. She's interesting.
I love her.
She's what would be called a bad mom, but now I'm in sort of I'm not so sure. Like, she's a little bit in Mrs. George, Amy Poehler from Mean Girls.
Yeah, I don't think she's a bad mom. I think she is a newly single mom who doesn't quite know what kind of advice to give her daughter.
Well, she always has a glass of wine, and she's very lenient, we'll say.
Yeah.
But there's also a refreshing element to that. To actually just being, that's why I brought up Mrs. George, is you kids need any condoms? It's like, as like inappropriate as that seems, think about it for a minute. Like,
yeah.
So, and I mean, we glossed over Fez. Did you have anything else you wanted to say, or?
No, I just love him. This is that actor's first job ever, and he's doing a really good job.
The scene with Rue, where he was like, get the fuck out of my house, and she just kept flipping him off, and like...
Yeah. That's the thing, is he's holding his own against more experienced actors in a way that always impresses me. It reminds me of Grizz on The Society, because that was his first job too. And it's like, you're working with people who are like well above your pay grade, and you're holding your own. And I am always really impressed by that.
And just the way that he, in spite of her completely defying his orders, he then still he was prepared to kill that man.
Yeah, he was prepared to I don't think he's in love with Rue or anything, at least not yet, but I think he loves Rue.
I will say, because I made a joke to you when we first met him, and I was like, he's actually great. And you were like, I was getting that feeling because Rue goes to him after she gets out of rehab. And he was like, how are you doing? And she was like, amazing, now that I have this like new relationship with my Lord and Savior. Yeah. She said something like that. And he just said, oh, that's what's up? Like, word.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was just so prepared to be like, okay, if this is what makes you happy. And that's the moment where you're like, wait a minute, is this dude awesome?
Yeah, he's super awesome. And then in episode 4, when she goes to him, is it episode 4? Early episode 4? 3. And she's just like, let me in. I need drugs. I need something. It's after her fight with Jules. And she's like, and he will not let her in. He absolutely will not. He's like 100%
I'm not going to help you kill yourself.
I loved it. I just was like, and she's, on the one hand, she's right, because she's like, you made your living selling drugs to teenagers and now you won't do it. Like, you won't do your job for me. And I don't know. I'm really into their dynamic for sure. And his dynamic and the little kid's dynamic with Kat is a lot of fun too.
So, I think that's it for a first chunk. We've gone almost an hour.
Yeah, I was anticipating 30 minutes. I was not anticipating this long.
There's a lot to say. I don't know that we're going to check in. Well, we'll see. We'll see how we're going to finish this.
Yeah.
We'll do something with it. So
we will be back.
Yeah, for now, bye. And we'll be back with the next part that we're going to talk about.
Yes, we will.
Well, okay, in hindsight, I do sort of wish we had recorded after episode 5, because I had several things I was going to say that have changed during the events of episode 6.
Gotcha. So, but you had watched 6 already, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was when I came home from day drinking at Disney Springs with Anne.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I remembered the Halloween party and, stuff, but some of it I was kind of like, whoa.
I felt that way the whole 2 hours.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Well, man, if one thing is true and always has been, I find Maddie fascinating. Yeah, we ended our previous coverage with me talking about how much I hated her and how nothing could make that change. And let's just say that though I don't like her, and especially particularly after the events of episode 6, I do have an understanding of her.
Yeah.
In a way that she is interesting to me in a way that she was not before. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. And I agree that she's interesting, but she's also trash.
Oh, God.
She's the worst.
Yeah.
Her and Nate, oh my God. Throw the whole couple away.
Every fucking time. Honestly, this is a fool me 6 times, shame on you. Fool me 7 or more times, shame on me. I keep feeling bad for Nate throughout every time he does something terrible. And I'm like, well, maybe now he's learned. Maybe now he has remorse. And then he somehow manages to double down and be even more terrible.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, but seeing weird videos of your dad isn't gonna...
It's not a good enough excuse.
Yeah,
although he's white and attractive and he's got a bright future ahead of him, so he will definitely not go to prison for anything.
Well, no, because he's taking care of it. And it's I did write down notes, but I think that we're just going to talk a little bit more. But what is we've established that I have severe blinders when it comes to beauty. So if I think someone is attractive, I'm real dense. It takes a lot to break through. So I might be a little bit more confused about some of these characters than say you are. But let's talk about Eric Dane.
Okay.
What is the deal with Nate's dad? What do you think about him?
I think he's gay. And he got married because that's what he was supposed to do. And so he feeds his true self with these weirdo encounters in the motel.
But he seems like an actually nice guy.
I think he's a nice guy, and I think he's a good father, and he's probably a medium husband.
Which is so weird to call him a good father when this is the fruit of his...
Well, sure, I mean, Nate sucks, and evidently his older brother is a dick, too. So, honestly, I don't know. He seems like he cares about his kids, but I don't think he's a sociopath, because he's worried about what his lifestyle might be doing to his kids.
But it's I don't think he, I don't feel like he was beating this into Nate.
No.
Because that scene with Monaco, when it started, I was like, I am not interested in this even remotely. And then when it actually played out, I was like, what a fascinating character and a fascinating scene. And, we're not quite talking about episode 6, and we don't have the luxury of binging. We can't watch episode 7 to see how it moves forward. But episode 6 goes to some really dark not tragic, but terrible places. So,
Yeah.
But in episode 5, that scene with Monaco, I was like, that to me is drama, because other shows like Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead, it would be like, oh, great, he's going to freak out and beat Monaco to death or something. Like,
sure, no, 100%.
No, completely. Like, we'd use that as a way to show the audience that these are bad guys. You know, the audience really. And it's like, not only does that not happen, but like, it was this really like tender moment from this very odd breath of fresh air of a character.
Yeah.
Like, because at first I was like, I'm not interested in you and your cupcake music, like, and all of this. But then by the end, when Monaco was just like, I'm incapable of deceiving people, like, you know what you get with me, like,
yeah.
And how he just actually kind of was like emotional with him. I don't know. I was really touched by that scene. And because even with Cal, that's his name, Eric Dane.
Yeah.
Because even the scene with him and Jules was like surprisingly tender in this, like, oh, I don't know. And the advice, like the way Cal is handling the family in this moment of disgrace, it's certainly stoic. I mean, I can't say that it's great, but
no, but he's doing the best he knows how to.
I didn't think I was going to come to the show and be like, I bet you Nate's dad, as played by Eric Dane, is going to
be one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I don't really know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so frustrated with everybody except for Rue, Lexi, and Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only people I'm not frustrated with, and honestly, Cassie is the tragic figure of this piece.
She's my favorite. I think I might have said that in an earlier coverage, and I knew a Cassie, and it's too real.
It's way too real. We all knew a Cassie. Everybody's known a Cassie. She is so sweet. She didn't stand a chance with that mother by Alana Ubach, who's still being incredible. And those boobs, she stood no chance. And all she wants, literally, I would say she's like the anti-Maddie, because Maddie wants what appears to be love at any cost, and Cassie wants actual love. All she wants in her life is to be loved by somebody, and she can't get it from any side except for her sister, because Lexi's is a fucking ride or die. Lexi, the Bob Ross and Halloween impersonator, is fucking ride or die.
And that dynamic between the family, because it's like, I've known a couple Cassies and they had Lexis as sisters, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
And because even, I mean, you mentioned Alana Ubach, and it's like, she is not a good mom.
I don't think she's a good mom. I don't think she's a bad mom. I think I want to say the most frustrating thing about the show to me is that I don't think, with obviously a handful of exceptions, I don't think any of these people are necessarily bad people. Again, with a few exceptions, which we've talked about. But what frustrates me is that they are all doing their best. And it's like that John Mulaney, where it's like, you think that these are people that are like just gonna be total bottom feeders, and it's literally just a bunch of teenagers trying their best. And it's like, it's just not good enough to get them through anything.
That's the part with, like, as dark as this show is, it feels very real, because I remember this, because when you're a teenager, and especially a teenager in modern times, it's like, you're in over your head, like people, in my experience, and granted I went to like community college and then art college, but in my experience, like, college and adult friends have just overwhelmingly been just decent people.
Yeah.
In a way that when we were, teenagers, even people I'm friends with to this day, they were kind of shitheads. Like,
no, I definitely get that. Like,
they're just not equipped for the stakes.
Yeah. At the same time, though, a lot of these teenagers are putting themselves in situations they're not equipped for, and then kind of looking around going, well, how did this happen? And I mean, I don't know. I'm just, okay, we can go with Cassie, because she's making me the most sad. I am sad when Cassie's on screen.
Cassie's going to be raped and murdered, and everyone's going to talk about what a whore she is. You know what it was? Yeah. And it's like, it just is so... because she is a very sexual being.
Yeah.
And I think that was what you meant when you were like, with those boobs, it's like she doesn't stand a chance. Like she cannot enjoy, because I was struck by that with the scene on the carousel. You know what I mean? And it's like, she's just in over her head. And it's like, I don't even hate Chris McKay as much as I feel like I am supposed to. Well, we're not supposed to hate him, but it's like,
we're not supposed to hate him, but I have way little sympathy for him. I don't think
the way he's policing her, and
the way he's policing her, the way, like you said when we were watching it, after his like fraternity or whatever comes in and like attacks him while he's having sex with her and pins him to the ground. And did they do something else? They just like hit him?
They raped him.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they raped him.
Okay.
In front of her, and
that negates what I was going to say next.
Well, that's why I said the like onus of his masculinity is now on her. It was up to her
I get that, but I thought he just got beat up.
No.
Okay. Then his initial reaction to cry is appropriate, but his reaction to then fuck her from behind is not appropriate. Talk about your fucking feelings.
Yeah, I agree.
Your feelings. It's making me so mad.
I agree with you.
And the way what made me the most angry was he was like, "Why do you have a shirt on?" And she was like, 8 dudes just came in here. I wanted to put a shirt on. And he was like, "So you don't want to have sex anymore?" And even now that I know for sure that they raped him, I'm like, she just saw her boyfriend get raped. Do you think she still wants to have sex?
No.
I don't want to still have sex.
He needed to reclaim his masculinity. It was taken from him, and now it was her job to give it back to him.
100% no. Talk about your feelings.
And then he couldn't either, and it became her fault. I mean, it was kicking the dog. Cassie is the dog that everybody kicks.
I know. It's just the worst. So she's at the Halloween party, and by the way, she is wearing one of the best costumes.
It was so good. It's so hilarious. Good.
That's Patricia Arquette in the real movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. And it looked like her. And it was sexy, and it made her look cool, seem like wise beyond her years. And then he put her in that stupid jersey.
Yeah, unbelievable.
God, no, I could write, I think I might have said this earlier, but I was like, I could write an essay on Cassie.
Yeah, because then at the Halloween party with the rest of the high school kids, she starts hooking up with that guy, Daniel.
From Alita.
Oh, the guy from Alita, yeah. I mean, that was, like, going okay. Are men really like this? I've not encountered a single man like this in my whole life.
Yeah, some. I've encountered a couple. Not many, but a couple.
I mean, I know that they exist, but it's like, this feels pervasive. And given politics, I guess I should know that this is the way things are now, but I have never been in a situation where that happened to me. Anything like any of this happened to me.
I mean, I could tell you stories, but I would need to tell you details from high school that we can't record.
No, that's fine.
But
I just it's wild to me how there are this many men who are like that and the women haven't risen up against them yet.
That is true, but
like, how have these girls not banded together and being like, Nate choked me out, and McKay, used me as a toy, and
well, I feel like we should watch the episodes that are coming up.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just very...
Well, you said so. We can't go on forever, and we've barely scratched the surface of what happened, because this is the most plot-heavy show. Holy shit. But you said the word politics, and I thought that was a good word, because it's like, I am riveted by this show. I am loving everything that it's saying and doing. But we ended episode 6. Yeah, we ended episode 6 on a very bold storytelling choice for this day and age.
Yeah.
We're in a hashtag time's up, hashtag Me Too era, where we are hopefully actually accomplishing something. And so there's a whole lot of, you have to believe women, and you have to, treat this stuff seriously, and you can't just brush things aside. And so I think it's very bold to tell a story where a girl is blatantly fabricating a rape. And people are like
because
this is...
she doesn't want her boyfriend to leave her.
Yeah, but it's like, this is what every dude in a Reddit conversation says. But like, well, how do we know she's not just making it up? And so to depict it then, it's like, oh, you're putting ideas in people's heads. Like,
and also I have a couple issues with the whole thing, because I agree with what you said, where like the argument would work on another teenager, but like all of these teenagers are too quick to believe they could go to prison for things that they're doing, which is so unlikely. Like Jules took naked photos or like topless photos of herself and sent them to what she thought was another 17-year-old person.
Mm-hmm. She would most likely get in trouble, but I don't know.
She would not go to prison for child pornography. Like that's not even, none of those words are correct.
Well, there was a story where a similar thing happened where a teenage boy had like pictures of either himself or his girlfriend or whatever, and they called him down to the office and they threatened him with that. Like they were like, you're going to be a sex offender. You're going to go to jail. Like they were trying to scare him, and he killed himself. He left and killed himself. And they were like, well, we weren't actually going to do it. Like,
well, that foul lot of good that's going to do now.
Yeah.
I want to set Nate and Maddie on fire.
I can't wait for her to go down with him.
I know, right? She's got to, right?
Yeah, she has to. It's like fascinating. I do find the show absolutely enthralling. And, you know, I do like everybody. I mean, even the people I dislike, I am interested by it. I will say Kat is really testing my patience, but...
Yeah, me too.
But it's also, she
is owning herself in a way that's really fabulous and that makes me feel really good about, like, the state of some young girls today. But I have the same problem that you said, where it's like... she's gone and course corrected too far. Mm-hmm. She's like way overcorrected. So now it's like she's so cynical now, where she's like to that Ethan kid who seems really nice and into her.
Well, and the worst part is she's also, because, or even the guy, Shiloh Fernandez, the guy at the mall, it's like he was actually getting to know her. Do you know what I mean? Like, and
then it's like the whole time she's like, do you want to fuck or not? And it's like, you don't have to have this much armor on.
But she's also sending these boys such messages. Like, she has now trained Ethan to be a jerk. And it will take him several women after her to unlearn that.
Yeah, plus the reason why I was like, I want them to all be grown-ups is because he was going down on her, and she was really into it, and he got so into it that he came in his pants. Mm-hmm. So he said, I have to go to the bathroom. And then he was like, oh shit, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. And I was like, they need to all be grown-ups because, like,
shit happens.
Shit happens, and it's not, like, hot, but, like, it's kind of hot for a dude to be that into going down on you. That's kind of hot. And I'm
You're young. Like, you'll get
No, I know, and I know they're only like 16 and 17, but it's just like the hang-ups that you get in high school, they stick with you forever, like for so long. Mm-hmm. I'm just emotionally drained by this show. I'm like having such a good time because it's really fascinating, but I'm also just like, I can't take so much of it at once.
Mm-hmm. I've hoisted it upon you twice now.
It's just so much, even though I like it. Mm-hmm. It's so much. And it just makes me so glad that I'm, number one, not dating. And number two, that I'm not a teenager now. Mm-hmm. I think I would die.
I mean, I do think this is slightly heightened. Okay, here's what I said. I was talking to somebody about it, and I said, it's not so much that all of those things happened to me in high school, but it's like I am so familiar with so many elements of this. It's like, well, that happened to me, and then I know someone that happened to, and then I was in a similar situation, although it was college, and so it's just sort of like it is a dramatization, and they are laying it on thick.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think people watching this can definitely relate to several things that happened in a personal way. Where that is something that I have been interested in, is the dynamics between the boys and girls and stuff. And it's like, for better and worse. I mean, it's really gross and uncomfortable how many of the girls were really sort of like bullied into sexual encounters, and they treat it really blasé, like that's just life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess to an extent maybe it is, but also like I just said with Kat, where it's like, I'm mad at her now because she just ruined a perfectly good guy. Like,
She ruined a nice guy who really likes going down on girls.
It's going to take you a long time to like...
I'm like mad about it. I'm mad about it.
And so it's just like, guys are the villains. Like, men are bad, girls are good. That is the lesson. However, I have a great deal... I was being flippant, but
But you're not 100% wrong, but Kat's towing the line a little.
I have a great deal of sympathy for the plight of the young man. And I guess not sympathy, maybe empathy. I mean, I am male
empathy
and white.
is righter, I think.
But it's like, it is hard. I mean, just because someone else's struggle may be quote unquote harder or more topical doesn't mean that, like, I mean, all wounds hurt. Just because one wound hurts more doesn't mean that, like...
No, I definitely agree with that. I just think the fragility of the male psyche and the way that they're not able to do, like, emotional labor to get to a place where they understand that not everything's about them.
Completely.
That kind of stuff just makes me crazy.
The amount of effort and energy we all, as a society, put into protecting the male ego is exhausting.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Like, on a global level, we all have to perform this, like, delicate, like, kabuki in order to make sure that no men get, like, challenged. Like,
but meanwhile, if, like, every man did 10 minutes of, like, emotional, like, introspection a day, we'd be fine. Mm-hmm. It's alarming and it's frustrating, and it's like, in that way, this show is spectacular because I do think it's shining a light on that, and hopefully for people who could use it, but
probably not.
Probably not.
This doesn't really relate, but I'm going to go ahead and say it now because I love it and I get passionate about it. But I watch the late night shows, like I watch Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers, and Seth Meyers has been doing a segment called A Closer Look, where he delves into the absurdity of politics today. And I love when he gets angry.
Yeah.
Not like, because it, like, he's still telling the jokes. Like, he's like, I'm the jester. This is my job to jest. But when he gets angry, it almost is kind of like hot. It's like, oh. And one of my favorite sayings of all time is that thing where it was like, there are three things all wise men fear.
Yeah.
A night with no moon, the storm at sea, and the anger of a gentle man.
Yeah.
And so it's like, when Seth Meyers is, like, mashing his teeth, like...
Oh, for sure. For sure. Because I've told you that quote always really reminds me of one from Doctor Who, where it says, demons run when a good man goes to war. And I'm just like, yeah, man. Because it's fucking terrifying. When you push a good person far enough that they're mad enough to fight you... That's terrifying. You shouldn't do that.
I really feel like raise girls to be strong and raise boys to be gentle, because
100%.
The world will do the rest. The world will
the world will even it out.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And so, okay, but before we end, because I know you're probably trying to wrap up, what was the thing going on with Jules at the Halloween party because the thing with Nate had happened the night before?
I was a little unsure about that. I think so, but also...
But also she is pulling away from Rue because she doesn't want that responsibility, right?
Yeah. Jules is probably... I mean, we're 7 months into the year. So far, she's my favorite character I've seen this year.
I like her a lot, but she was trying my patience like Kat is trying your patience in this Halloween episode.
Yeah, she's an over... okay, I've been Jules several times. And I really related, where it's like you get in over your head, and it's a level of self-destruction, and it's once again kicking the dog. Especially around this age, I'm thinking of like 3 specific incidents where I was nasty to my friends because I knew I could. Like, I knew I could get away with it, and I needed somewhere to put my anger and or my fear. And I like to think that I've grown out of it or grown past it, but I was really relating to Jules in a like an ugly way. And I've been there, sweetheart. And because she's scared. She got in over her head with Rue, and because she's, presumably not a lesbian.
Right. No, I definitely get that part of it. And I think I've said frustrated about 1,000 times, but I think that is honestly the most frustrating part about this show to me is that 90% of the problems would be solved if anybody just said something sincere to another character.
I think they're communicating as best as they're able to. I think a lot of this they don't fully understand, you know?
So is that like a teenager thing where like Jules doesn't have the equipment to go up to
Because she was
Rue
pushing
and
Rue
be
away, and then when Rue went to leave, she was like, "Why are you leaving?"
I guess. So what you're saying is she doesn't have the like emotional tools to be like, I can't be this for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm so weirdly proud of Rue in like the way that I was proud of a couple of the characters on the Society, where it's like she's actually really chugging. I want to see more from Rue and Lexi because they have the history, and Lexi's the kind of character that, you know, within 5 minutes difference, I can go from fucking Lexi to like, oh, Lexi, she's the best. And like, I think we all had that friend.
Oh, for sure. I think she's really great. And I think she's a really good true friend to Rue in a way that's like not codependent or anything. And so I agree with you. I'd like more of them as well.
And I mean, we have a second season coming. So it's like, this strikes me as like a 3 to 4 season max type show.
Sure.
It doesn't feel like the kind of thing that's going to go on for 9 seasons. I couldn't imagine Euphoria the college years. Maybe I could. I don't know. But
well, I would also rather die than watch this until I'm in my 40s. No, I can't do it. I'm sorry.
That one hurt. That hurt.
Yeah.
Hurt my back, my old back. Oh. Frankly, I mean, I wrote even more notes, but I think that that's plenty for now. So if it was important, we'll touch on it in the next
we'll get
episode
it in the finale.
or two. So we've got 2 more.
Yes, we do.
So we get 7, 8. Okay.
All right.
Well, we'll see ya later.
Bye.
We saw the 7th and 8th episodes of Euphoria, and well, I don't know where to start. I didn't take notes, and this is such a plot dense show.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Yeah. It is and it isn't. Because a lot happens.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of like dialogue.
In a weird way, it's sort of filling that hole left by season 1 of American Gods, where it's like not quite as fantastical and stylish as American Gods, but I feel like this show easily has 2, if not 3 times the shots of a normal TV show. Like, and I'll even go as far to say a normal HBO show.
Sure.
There is so many setups and scenarios we go through and stuff. It's like we in episode 7 we had 15 minutes of this episode was young Cassie, and there was like this fully realized life of this girl with a father who barely had any lines, but it's like he was a fully realized character for those moments, and there's just so much production put into the show. It's like a modern day Odyssey, really. Do you want to start with Cassie? What do you have? I mean, that's where I'm at. Sorry, I literally was like, do you want to start talking? And then I started talking, but I feel like we've said a lot of the stuff that there is to say about the show already.
Yeah.
And though there's plenty of places for the show to go through a season 2 or 3, although I don't think this is going to run very long. I feel like there was some resolution in these episodes, but let's go back to that. Like, what do you think about Cassie?
I really enjoyed the end of her arc this season. I love Cassie. I think like I've said, okay, there are, I guess I want to say 5 characters. No, that's not true because I keep thinking of more. Obviously, I love Rue and Jules, but like Cassie, I'm the most sympathetic to Cassie because her shit is the most relatable to me because it's realer.
Were you going to say that there's 5 characters you like?
Yeah.
I wanted to hear the rest of that because...
But it's more... it's more than that. I kept thinking of more.
Well, I only like a handful of them, but I find most of them interesting.
Well, sure. Okay, so what I was going to say is Rue and Jules and Cassie and Lexi. And I was like, that's it. And then I was like, no, I love Fez. And then I was like, but that's it. And I was like, no, I really love Kat. So I just kept going.
Jules is trying me.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Episode 7 and 8, Jules is a lot.
And it feels real. It feels relatable. Before we recorded this, before we recorded this today, we were having a small conversation with Sade from Off Screen Babble about the show. And she was like, who is the audience for this show? And I've had several people ask that. And I can't necessarily tell you. You said that it was in a large part inspired by Sam Levinson's own life.
Yes.
So do you think it's semi-autobiographical?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
He is Rue, essentially.
I've only watched a couple of those inside the episodes.
Oh, I watched all of them.
Yeah, I've been watching it live, like on that night,
Gotcha.
and they only play them on demand.
The Cassie one was really good.
I see. I need to go back and watch them.
Yeah, she confirmed what you said, where like the characters had a lot of input, or the actors had a lot of input on their own characters. She said she created like a life book for Cassie. Like decision, like things that her father said to her as a child that impact decisions that she's making that we're seeing now and stuff like that.
Did she seem brighter than
Cassie or than Maddie?
Than the actress who played Maddie?
Much brighter.
Okay. I don't like it.
I will say though, I hate every single one of their voices.
Their real voices?
Yeah. Well, they're all the same. It's like, it's just how they sound in real life.
They're young. I am aware of our age in a way that I've never been before. Because I still feel young, but looking around, I was cleaning out my photo bucket and looking at some of those pictures from when we were like 22. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I feel the same way I felt when I was 22, but goddamn.
I mentally, I feel the same way that I did when I was 22 or 19 or whatever. I just feel wiser, but I don't feel older.
But when I looking back at us, I was like, oof, like they let us rent an apartment. You know what I mean? Like we look like children.
You remember how mad we were too when they were like, you need someone to co-sign and you need like an extra deposit. And we were like, bitch, we're amazing. And it's looking back and it's like, no, we were like 5 people under 25 that should not have been renting a house.
Well, we didn't need a co-signer, but they like wanted to know if we were in relationships with each other.
Right.
And I was like, no, we're not going to break up. We're not going to.
And also not your business.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I remember being like, I don't think this is not about the show, but Jules really has, she's going, I heard what I was about to say. I was about to be like, she's not what I wanted her to be. And I was just like, oof. That's some I love you, Beth Cooper shit.
Well, it's not that she's not what I wanted her to be, but I feel, and I don't think it's wrong, but she's not the character I thought she was. It's not that she's not what I want her to be. It's that I thought she was someone different.
She's got this wild streak that, I mean, obviously, you know, hooking up with adult married men on Grindr should have been a giant red flag.
Sure.
But she's got this like manic pixie dream girl thing that she's really leaning into in this way that I don't like. I've never had stars in my eyes for New York City, and she is why. Like, she represents everything about that kind of where I'm just like, no, I've always been more of a suburbia type person.
Yeah.
And I can't figure out, like, and I mean, I know she can't either.
Yeah.
Because,
which is part of the whole thing. Because
wasn't Monique from Black Girls Do Stuff Too? Wasn't she like, so wait, are they a thing or not? I don't understand.
Rue and Jules?
Yeah.
I don't know. It might have been her. I'm not sure. But that's the thing is like, I feel like she thinks she's just being herself and like a young person. But I think she also doesn't realize yet that her actions have the consequences that they do.
I don't think she really, I agree. I truly don't think she also realizes the effect she has on people.
Yeah, for sure. Because she is a Nomi Malone if ever there was one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In
a good way, that like where everybody can't help but falling immediately in love with her and placing her at the center of their universe.
And so I feel like there's just going to be this wake of like broken hearts in her way until she dies tragically, you know, like, and that's not, I mean that in a this parachute's a knapsack.
Sure. Like, I know what you mean.
Yeah. No, I just like, she puts herself in situations. I was like, I'm making it worse. Cut all this well.
I know what you mean. She does. It's not a victim blaming thing, but she does get in situations where you're like, I see your original intent, and yet here we are in this terrible situation that's going to go badly for everybody involved. And it's not necessarily her fault, but she's also not doing anything to help her make it better.
So yeah, oh shit, how did it end with Rue?
Rue and Jules?
No, Rue. She
did a line.
Yeah, fuck. I already forgot. I was literally about to be like, I'm still so proud of Jules. And I was like, wait a minute. She did the line, and then there was that musical note. I like Sam Levinson.
Yeah. I'm
curious if this is all he can do, because the only two things I've seen from him have been very
similar.
Yeah. And emotionally, storyly similar. But narratively, storily. You knew what I meant.
Do it. It works. Just go with it.
Shakespeare made up words. I'm just a modern day Shakespeare. Looking for my Anne Hathaway.
I think you're looking for your Christopher Marlowe, to be honest.
Yeah, I have no idea. So, is this cinema verity?
No.
Like, it's not? Okay.
No, that's like documentary style stuff.
I thought that was like the slice of life. Like, because I was like, I was going to say there wasn't really a narrative, but there is a narrative to this.
Okay. I agree with you. This show, it made me think so much more than I wanted to on a Monday night. I don't know where I'm trying to. I don't know what I want to talk about next. But so we talked about Cassie. Did you have something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think, speaking of Sam Levinson, do you think that he works better in long form than he did in the 2-hour? Like, are you enjoying it drawn out, or does it just feel like watching Assassination Nation,
no.
5 times in a row?
I feel more emotionally fulfilled by Euphoria.
Okay.
I liked Assassination Nation, but it's very in your face, and it is sort of like a roller coaster ride that's like literally only downs. So I liked it, but it was a lot more frenetic, I guess, and this Euphoria lets the moments linger more. So you
think that that's a result of the format, like when he's given more time, you think it okay. I was just curious.
He had 8 hours as opposed to less than 2, and I think that's having to an extent, obviously, I think having the time to linger on the things that matter to you in your own story makes them resonate more.
I'm aware we're rambling a little bit, and I think it's because we really don't know where to go or what to say. This has been a remarkable show.
I honestly, I think it's one of my favorites of the year.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's I was mixed on it for a while because it's just so much, but I'm just really impressed by how it all played out.
I mentioned earlier about liking some of the characters, but finding almost all of them interesting. Easily, for me, the most interesting part of the finale was when Nate hit the fucking wall.
With his dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so interesting. I'm going to keep repeating myself, but we started off making fun of Eric Dane and his presence in the show, and I would like to take...
because he's McSteamy, and I find it very odd.
But I would like to take that all back, because I thought he's been great.
No, he's incredible. I don't think he's like an amazing actor, but he's certainly not an embarrassing actor.
It was just so shocking to me, because his dad, Cal, is sort of scolding. I always do that. Scalding is hot. Scolding is...
You have a problem with vowels.
He's scolding his son, and Nate tries to step to him. And Cal's like, I'm gonna need you to take a step back. And Nate does it. And then Cal's like, I'm going to ask again. I'm going to need you to take a step back. And Nate tried. He really tried. And he just completely melted down.
Yeah.
And it goes to show you how much these are children. Like how he looks and sounds and moves like a grown man, but at the end of the day, he is a boy.
Yeah.
And
like 17 at most.
He's the kind of person that would scream, I'm a grown-ass man, and throw a chair out a window on Good Morning America. You know what I mean?
Well, he's the type of man who wouldn't, or the type of boy, I guess, who fucking grabs his girlfriend in the face when he can't get hard to have sex with her.
And
as if it's her fault. Well, she was provoking him, but
she tries my ever-loving patience.
No, I really don't care for Maddie very much at all.
But those moments where she was like, I had a friend who had a gay boyfriend, and she kind of suspected, and then it presented itself nearly identically with this.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just so matter of fact, like, I don't understand what you want from me. She's like, I'll help you if you need me to help you, but I don't understand what my position is in all this. And he also spiraled out, sort of like Nate.
Mm.
And so stuff like that I find interesting, because it's like, yeah, she did tell people about Nate, but it was close friends of hers, and it was more from a place of like, what do I do?
Yeah. Well, it was also kind of from a place of like, oh, boys, they're so crazy.
And she keeps giving him the option to be like even just a little bit gay and stuff, and it's like that's making him angrier.
Yeah.
It is just really interesting to me, and I don't, like, for me, a character like Maddie, she could come out of this. Like, there is a scenario.
Definitely, you're right. She could definitely
where I end up loving her. Like, if she actually learns.
Yeah.
Which it feels like she's capable of. I don't know if she's currently doing that based on her challenging him on the dance floor.
Yeah, but I mean, they were dancing together, the two of them, after that.
Oh, fuck yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Which DVD do you think she has? Is it Jules?
I mean, for plot reasons, that would do the most damage.
Because why else would that be the one that Nate took? Because it was in Nate's room in his book.
Yeah, okay. Then I'll go. I can't remember. We saw it. I can't remember what color it was. The one Maddie has is green.
Yeah, greenish. But I can't remember what color Jules is.
We didn't mention, well, because this is the episode where we talk about it, but fucking what's his name? Is it Nat Faxon?
Yeah.
I think that was all. I think that was it.
No, it was just really funny. Will comes out and he came out to the kitchen. He goes, "Oh, is that Rue's dad?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh, well, like stepdad." And I was like, "No, her dad was white, but like this is just like a date." Like for her mom, this is nothing. I was like, he's being terrible, but so is Rue, and it's just like a whole mess.
Yeah. How much did you love Rue and Lexi's detective thing?
Okay. If I weren't a little gay before, Zendaya in that like 70s detective outfit was like doing a lot for me.
But the whole thing was so funny.
It was hilarious, and especially because it was like highlighting her manic moments. The whole thing was spectacular and hilarious, and I loved the whole thing.
That's a prime example of what I mean, where I'm like, this show really defies genres. I was like, because presumably all that stuff happened, but it's like we were seeing the events through Rue's imagination.
Yeah.
Like that was how she was imagining it was unfolding in a very Chicago-esque way.
Yeah.
I think Lexi is proving to be a very fascinating, reliable, even slightly enigmatic character.
I really think we got more of a look at her in Cassie's episode because they're sisters. And so seeing her in the background of that was illuminating because I feel like they really love each other, but they're also, you could tell that Lexi was like the redheaded stepchild of the family because Cassie's so beautiful and Cassie's so like special, and it's just like Lexi has kind of gotten left behind, but honestly like to her benefit.
Like Lexi, like they only had Lexi because Cassie needed that extra kidney.
Right.
And she knows that.
No, but I think, again, but seriously, to her benefit, because she's not as pretty as Cassie, even though Maude Apatow is very pretty. And she's not as, like, talented and she's not as sought after, but she's also not having sex and needing an abortion or getting on drugs.
She hasn't peaked yet in a way that some of these other girls.
Yeah.
Because they even have that conversation.
Fucking Maddie thinks she hasn't peaked yet, and she 100% has. This is it for you, Maddie.
Well, I mean, based on her decision-making skills, yes. But if she wised up real quick, she might have a few good years in front of her, but...
Sure.
I found this culmination of Kat's arc to be pretty rewarding.
I liked it a lot, actually. I was gonna say the final episode felt a little disjointed to me, because honestly, that moment, while it was very cool, the moment where, like, the 6 of them, the girls, were sitting around the table talking about, like, the future and stuff, felt like it belonged in a different show a little bit.
Well, I think
it felt too bald-faced.
Well, I think we sort of forgot that they were all friends. We don't really see them together, all of them together as friends.
Yeah.
And frankly, I mean, that felt pretty authentic to high school to me, where it was like, I had several cliques, but when it talks about, like, actual close friends, I only had a few, you know what I mean? And
it wasn't that they were sitting together, it was the discussion they were having. It felt too calculated, like it felt
Vitamin C Graduation just starts playing in the background.
Sure. It felt scripted in a way that the rest of the show doesn't feel scripted to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it was bad. It just felt like a different show. But I did really enjoy it. I loved Lexi getting drunker the more Everclear and Gatorade she drank. And I really enjoyed the way that they all sort of, like, merged off by themselves, but always Cassie and Lexi were still at the table.
The Everclear and Gatorade thing was that was from high school for me.
You're like, that's authentic.
Yeah, that was authentic. So that's where I'm like, I don't know who if this show was for us and meant to be nostalgic or what, but I remember going to a party after prom with Megan Jevery, and Erin had Gatorade and Everclear, but she was only pretending to drink it. And I was like, why? And she was like, because the boys will be stupid. And so she was, like, pretending to be drunk, but she wasn't. And I was like, we've talked about her, but you and me have talked about it. I loved Erin. But
that's amazing. That's Trixie.
Because she was like, but this way I can make them do stuff. Like,
oh my God, she's so smart.
We were talking about Kat. She just was being awful. Like, I was, and this happens a lot of time. I mean, you really do test. Oh God, we talked about this recently. It's like an issue with why people are so awful now because too many people are socializing on the internet. And they were talking about how one of the reasons why it was like a professor or somebody smart, I can't think of the right word, but she, like, wrote a, like, article about how the reasons why our teenage years and puberty is so bad is because there's so much trial by fire that happens.
Yeah.
She was like, every single person makes a mistake and are then shunned by their peers. Their peers have to sort of put them in their place. And that's how we learn so many of these things. And if you have the internet, if you do something, if you go too far or something, you have no reason to listen to negative feedback because you don't know who those people are. Mm-hmm. So you just sort of put them in this camp where it's like you're not who I thought you were, or you're not real or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it's created this generation of people, but particularly young, particularly white men who have no concept of, like, how to behave in a real social way. Right. And so it was, like, really fascinating seeing Kat do this, because I mean, I did it. I got burned really bad my junior year, and I lashed out at everybody, because I was testing the boundaries. And, luckily I came through it. And I think most people do. I think most people have a story that they can relate back to that. But it was really interesting because it's like there were valuable lessons Kat was learning from her rebellion. Mm-hmm. But she had to marry that with the parts of her from before that still... Yeah,
I feel like, honestly, Kat got a pretty big wake-up call when she was stripping for that black screen that could have been anybody.
Yeah, part of me was waiting for that to come back, and I guess it still could.
Part of me is waiting for that to be Nate.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch has his fingers in all the pies.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if he's like Dr. Evil.
I know, but he's gotten everybody else. He got Fez rated. He was doing some fucking brain Tetris with Taru when he kept telling her she looked beautiful. What the fuck was that? What the fuck? I mean, obviously she did. She's Zendaya and she had glitter all over her, but Jesus, that made me so uncomfortable.
She's been such a tomboy, and that was her looking like a woman the way women should to him.
Ugh.
And I think it was sincere on his part, but I mean, I think he was...
Think of that.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
No, I mean, now that you say it, it's obvious, but ugh, I hate Nate. I've never been more terrified of a TV villain. He's terrifying.
Is he worse than Caleb on the Society?
Yeah.
Okay.
Caleb at least has like a little something behind the eyes. Nate is like a snake.
I tweeted when the episode was over, I was like, that finale was great and all, but is anybody gonna go get Tyler out of jail?
I know, man. Well, everything is still up in the air, though. Like Nate has not been brought down by any means.
I just imagine Tyler, hello, I'd like to be rescued now.
Pardon me.
Oh, man. I'm glad Chris wasn't in this episode. Oh,
McKay?
Yeah.
Well,
his reaction to Maddie.
To Maddie?
Cassie.
To Cassie, to the pregnancy?
Yeah.
I kind of thought that was handled well. Because he wasn't really mad at her, but he was like, we can't do this, right?
Well,
he was being a little bit of a dick to her.
Yeah, he just was so self-centered about the whole thing, and it just goes to show that you are not ready, and this is why. Like, we so rarely, well, not so rarely, but we don't really like to try to get into political water and stuff unless it's warranted. But I think pro-life people are evil. Like,
I tend to agree with you. I just really liked that nobody made her feel bad about her decision. Her mom was like fine with it. The nurse was really professional. The doctor was really professional. They like were clearly at a Planned Parenthood or something. And
that's the thing I've been saying about her mom the whole time, where I'm like, is her mom awful? Because she seems like it. I mean, she's definitely a wino, but yet she's she's reliable. You know what I mean?
Well, that was one of the really good things that the girl that plays Cassie said in the after thing, where she was like, she gets to a point where like there's no one else for her to talk to, and she realizes that her mom is there and she's a better resource than she's been treating her like. And she literally was like, I wish that I had remembered that about my mom before I did. I could have saved myself some mistakes. And I just was like, man, that's true. You get there when you get there, but you always wish you got there sooner.
I mean, I actually remember being 18 and talking to my mom, and I caught myself starting to censor a story. And then I was like, we're 18 now. I was like, do you want me to tell you the truth, or do you want to keep this like facade up? And she was like, I want the truth because that's the only way I'll actually be able to help you. So that's just when I started actually telling her everything. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
There's lots of shades of gray all over. And frankly, that makes the stylistic choice to make the show so colorful make even more sense. Because could you imagine if this was dour?
No, I would not watch it. I wouldn't be able to watch it at all. It has to be as colorful as it is. Because it's also, is that not the world that high school kids live in now? I mean, everything is glitter and neon lights and, Instagram
all the makeup. Rachel was telling me that, like, because Rachel works for a MAC, and she's telling me that, like, all the girls at MAC are copying Jules' makeup and stuff. And
cool. Jules' makeup is great.
I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we need to cover or that we want to cover?
I don't think we talked about every character, but I think we got the gist of it all. I loved the letter that Rue's mom was reading at the AA meeting. That was very fascinating. And I continue to love all of the glimpses of their lives before. I
really like that. And I've said this about several of our teen shows, and I've meant it in a different way each time, but I do find the parents in this one fascinating, because I think that there's a lot of discussion as to whether or not, like, we talk about good and bad parents like it's a black or white thing, like it's binary. And all of these parents are good and bad in different ways.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that in a way that it feels it feels real. Like it feels crafted in a way that I think it would be easy to be like Cal or like Nate's dad Cal is bad, but then Rue's mom is good. You know what I mean?
But it's just definitely not that way because there are good things about Cal and there are really bad things about Rue's mom.
Leslie. And I mean, because was she seriously hitting on Jules' dad?
It seemed like it. That though, I wouldn't put it necessarily in the bad column, but at the end when they're having that flashback to after Rue has presumably stolen $40 and they are screaming at each other and Gia is like, you have to stop. Please stop. This isn't helping her. And then she just is like, if you want to be like her so much, follow her then. And I'm like, Leslie, that's not appropriate to say to your younger daughter and also like not helping anybody. And it's like frustrating. Where at the same time, it's like Cal is clearly, I guess a relatively devoted husband and father. He's not leaving them, but it's also he's doing all this stuff on the sly and he has clearly done a number on Nate. So it's like he's outwardly giving them everything they need, but it's also definitely not enough.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is because I feel like I kind of wanted to talk after the last episode, but I mean, we're already pushing 2 hours at this point, and this is the kind of show that there's so much in there that we could probably talk for an additional 2 hours and still be finding things.
Yeah. I would like to revisit this before season 2 comes out.
Yeah. Do we think it's going to be, because it got a slightly early renewal, do we think we're going to get it next year, or are they going to dick us around for another year and a half to 2 years?
I don't know.
Probably next year, because Zendaya's really the only person at this point. It's not like we're rearranging our schedule for Anthony Hopkins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would imagine probably next summer, and it's a good summer show.
I definitely agree with that.
Could you imagine watching this in January?
I couldn't. I don't think I could. I think it would just be so sad. The time still hasn't changed yet, so I'm still okay.
Yeah. So, okay, do you have anything else that you want to...
I don't right now. I recommend it highly. Definitely. I mean, take care of your mental health if it's going to be too much for you, but it's very good.
I have a friend who has dealt with like substance abuse stuff, and it keeps reminding me of them, and I want to like recommend it to them, and I'm sort of like, oh, maybe but I also don't want to like plunge you. Like, talk about trigger warning. You know what I mean?
It is. I guess it is, or it could be very triggering, but not having those issues myself, I just found it very good and interesting. But it is still, even not having those issues, it is still a very trying hour. And
to mention it one more time, I mean, the shades of gray, like, I really do like that we're not getting like a good or bad character, because, I mean, I like to think of myself as a good person, but I know there's times where I have not done what I should have done or what I could have done. And it's like that episode, the Halloween episode where Jules kind of just left Rue behind. It's like, I've done that. I've literally been like, sorry, I want to have fun and you're holding me down and I can't let your mental health, ruin my good night. And
well, the other thing too is that like Rue is obviously our hero in this whole thing. We're meant to be rooting for her, but she's not faultless. She's a drug addict and all that entails.
Anytime she's at Fez's house. Yeah.
And it's just like, she's obviously, one of the lesser evils of the show, but there's a lot going on there. And I definitely agree. The shades of gray on this show are definitely some of the most fascinating parts.
Many and varied.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, okay. I'll tap out there.
Okay, well, as always, you can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching, Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. We are also on Facebook and Tumblr, So I'm Watching This Show. Anything for the Spotify playlist?
There's a couple, especially that last episode. There was a BTS song that played during Cat's Kiss was his name Ethan?
I think Ethan, yeah.
Yeah, also fuck Dylan. And I knew he was... Daniel. I knew he was Kat's childhood crush. That kid. You want to talk about the real villain of this show? Fucking Eric Vanderwoodson. Go back to Alita, Battle Angel.
Okay. That has not been greenlit for a second movie. So, other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or YouTube or CastBox or Podcast Republic, wherever you listen. And that's it for us.
Bye.
Bye.